So let me take your questions, especially if you want me to play around with this or to look anything else up. If you have any other suggestions.
Is there information on public utilities and lobbying about, like, for instance, National Grid? Is there information there on
Sure.
public? You don't have to look it up, I'm just curious, I look it up myself.
Yeah. But as long as we're right here, National Grid. So this right here, we're looking at state contracts, right? So these are all state contracts with National Grid. All right, so let's take a look at National Grid's lobbyists.
Hang on, I'll take a picture.
National Grid spent $308,000 in this reporting period. Let's see campaign finance. This is National Grid's. These are two National Grid PACs. You could look up what they're spending their money on. Now, it's not going to necessarily have information about what National Grid is doing on the federal level. However, the campaign finance law now actually requires local candidates to file with the state, and that information is here.
What percentage of the state budget is member items?
Well, it's a lot of money to you and me, but as a percentage of the state budget, it's tiny. We're talking about, I used to know the number off the top of my head, but we're talking about several $1 million in member items, whereas the state budget is well over $1 billion. It's over $100 billion.
So it's inconsequential.
Well, you could give me a lever, and give me a lever that's long enough, and I could balance the world. The member item money is inconsequential when you're talking about the state's fiscal situation. It can be very consequential to both the recipients and also the members themselves value member items quite a bit. So if a member was here to present a check for $10,000 to the League of Women Voters, that could, to buy new computers, for instance, that could be very consequential to this group. It also gives the member an opportunity to do something with this group. And, if the member was going to try to do something truly nefarious, it probably wouldn't be reported. That would be something that's illegal. So normally the members are quite proud of what they're doing with member item money. But as a total percentage of the state budget, it's tiny.
I'm curious as to why our senator and our assemblyman returned to Chautauqua County.
Well, again, I could show you member items very easily, so let's look that up. But if they were involved in passing a law that created a state program, that's not going to appear
I
as
just
member
want to
item.
know how much money we got from each of them.
Let me pull that up.
While he's looking, the money that the league spent over a 2-month period, May, June, for example, was $2,100. I'm not sure about the 7. And that money includes a percentage of the staff. In other words, the staff of the state league that works on advocacy, a percentage of their salary, which is a percentage of their time, as well as the legislative brochures that we print every year, that's part of it, and any other item that we produce that has an advocacy other than an education side to it is what has to be reported. So it's not $7,000 that we spend with Barbara running around the halls. It has to do with everything.
That's not a salary for her.
It's not a salary. Barbara is a volunteer. We do also pay for her parking and her expenses doing the work that she does, but she does not get a salary. And you can see relatively it's extremely low considering the clout that we have.
Yeah, I knew that Barbara didn't get paid, and that's why she doesn't have to file herself. Because if you don't get compensated, the third common type of lobbyist is the citizen lobbyist. You are all lobbyists.
Right.
You are all going and talking with state legislators, and if you're not getting compensated for it, you don't have to file. If you are getting compensated, even if that's not your full-time job, for instance, when I worked at Buffalo State College, the president of the college had to file a lobby report because she would go to the state and talk about issues of concern to Buffalo State College. She doesn't think of herself as a lobbyist, but she was required by law to do that. So what I did is I first pulled up Senator Kathy Young, has 252 member items. They are listed in order. Now, if you want to manipulate the list, for instance, total that list up, you can export the data into a spreadsheet, which I just did while we were talking. So this is an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to total it. So Senator Young has brought in $4.3 million during the time that we have, which is, this year is going back to, from 2007, the last 2 years, basically. $4.3 million in the last 2 years.
And that's Chautauqua County only.
Actually, that's not true. This is her entire legislative district. If you want to do it by Chautauqua County only, it would take me a little bit more time. I would sort it first by location, and then by, then I would total the amount. That's how you would do it. Because it would take me a little bit more time, I won't actually do that. So let me, Bill Parment. So look at what I'm doing here. So this is Senator Young's sheet. I'm going back to where I'm looking up the members, right? So I put in Young before, now I'm going to plug in Parment. So I'm pulling up member items, and again, it lists all the member items. I'm going to export it, and I'm going to total it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had it on.
So it's a shorter list. Also, the other thing that you'll notice, so some of the empowerment has brought in about $500,000. The senators, because there are fewer senators, typically have more money because the Senate and the Assembly in total have an equal amount of member item money. The governor also has an equal amount. So the Senate has 62 members. The Assembly has 150 members. So there are more pieces of pie to go around. So typically the Assembly will have less member item money. So that's not unusual.
Now his total was 0.5?
Just about 400.
And how many items did you?
It looks like 19 here. No, fewer than that. It looks like 13.
Remember that he doesn't have all of Chautauqua County either.
I know, yeah, so that's.
Most of these seem like they're in Chautauqua County.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he has most of them, but not all of them.
No, it's like this. He is exclusively in Chautauqua County, but he doesn't cover the whole of the county.
Right, is Assemblyman
We have
Giglio?
Joe Giglio.
Yeah. Do you want me to look up Joe Giglio?
Sure.
Yes.
So I'm looking up. So this is his list. I'm going to export the data. I'm going to total it. So he has a longer list. $210,000 for this period. All right, hit me with another one.
Could you explain again? The $210,000, that money is for what again?
Well, this is the list. This is what it's for. These are called member items. So he gave $3,000 to the Allegheny Public Library, and if you wanted to, I exported this into an Excel spreadsheet so you could manipulate the data. But if you go back into the website itself and you want to see more details on that particular member item, it gives you more details. So it tells you who the contact name was, what will it be used for. Funds will be used for new carpeting. So this is a fairly typical member item. Member items almost always go towards capital expenses. You're buying something because the organization is not supposed to rely on member item money as part of its operating budget. That's one of the guidelines. It needs to serve a public purpose, Allegheny Public Library. So this is a public institution that needs new carpeting. So they went to their assemblyman and they said, hey, could you help us pay for new carpeting? It's totally his discretion within the parameters of it needs to be a public purpose, it's supposed to be for capital, there are certain exceptions that could be made. And he couldn't have bought new carpeting for the librarian's house, but he could buy it for the library itself.